Hi, my name is Ivy Starnes and I'm a gaited horse trainer in Fort Worth, Texas. Today we are talking about head down and how low should the head down be. Basically, when you're asking for a head down, do you go all the way down to the ground? Do you go like just a little lower than the horse has it? What's the big idea? Okay, well first in the description you'll find a link to my free head down training videos. Please watch those. Next, like I say in the description, head down is not just about getting the horse to put the head down. It's, about how the horse uses their body. Head down is the simplest version of asking the horse to lift his back, lift his withers, lift the base of his neck, engage his core, and move forward. Now, if I told people that was what I was going to be teaching, they would probably check out because it's a lot. And a lot of those things you're like, I don't even know where to start. So I have simplified it. For good or for bad, I have simplified it. I have made it about working on head down while going forward. So it is not just head down at the halt. It is head down with forward movement and impulsion. We want the horse to lift the base of his neck and lift his back. Now, if we just get the horse to tuck his nose, none of those things happen. He doesn't use his core, he doesn't lift his back, he often will hollow his back, and that's bad for the horse no matter what breed. We want the horse to lift the base of his neck or the root of his neck, to lift his withers, lift his back, and tuck his tummy, engage his core. Again, the simplest version of that is simply to ask the horse to put the head down and stretch the nose out. Okay? It's not about head down and bringing the nose in. It's about the horse doing what's called telescoping the neck, where the neck gets longer. And if you've been watching my videos or you watch my free head down training videos, I talk about this. All right, let's go ahead and look at some footage. First up is a high-headed horse who is very pacey. And the second horse is a horse who is very well trained but very pacey. And the first horse needs to get his head really far down before he starts to gait. And the second horse really doesn't even need his head down much, but he needs to telescope his neck to make it longer, which allows him to lift the base of the neck and lift his back and engage his core. And it's a very subtle change. And both horses needed something a little bit different, but both were taught using head down. So let's take a look at this first horse. And he is just very naturally pacey and naturally high-headed. This is day 1 at a clinic, and he's being ridden in a snaffle, the Rockin' S raised snaffle. And you can see he's a couple steps of gait there, which is why I stopped because I've been working on head down. But overall, he is really pacey and he really wants to put his head up. Now, he is not throwing his head up like he's mad. He was just never trained to put his head down. And we basically needed to retrain how he moves. And you're going to see this video is only about 2 minutes long, but then I've got a video from day 3 where he starts to put it down, starts to gait, but he has to put it down really, really low. And at the walk, he's pretty good about putting his head down, but as soon as we speed up, that's when we definitely lose it and we get very pacey, very, very stiff. He's hollowing his back. He's not using his core muscles at all. He's not lifting the base of his neck. There. And specifically what I'm training right here is asking him to drop that head, to soften and drop the head while going forward. So it's the combination of not just head down while we stand still, put the head down, which if the horse puts the head low enough, gets them to lift their back, lift their withers, use their core, and all of that happens when they put their head low enough. And the problem is that it is different for every horse. And I can't tell you what your horse should be, except that the pacier a horse is, the lower the head needs to be. This is not true for trotty horses, but for pacey horses, the lower it needs to be. And you're going to have to spend time speeding the horse up and asking him to soften and drop that head. And that's the part that a lot of people miss, is asking him to soften while going faster. Right there he did. And so what did I do? I stop and praise immediately because this is the first day. I want it to be super, super positive. So that's really important for you guys to see. Now we're going to go look at day 3 of the same horse, and we're riding on the road, and you're going to see that head go up, and it's going to go down, and up, and it's going to go down, and it's going to go down, and then it's going to pop back up because the horse has the muscle memory of having that head up. But as that head goes down, and notice the nose is out, you start to hear the smooth gait come through. I'm going to leave the audio on that one because I want you guys to be able to hear the footfall change. And that's what's super important, is how much it changes. Okay, here you go. Same horse, day 3 as opposed to day 1. Look at that low head, and you see I give him a loose rein. I basically go on the buckle, and as soon as that head comes up, I ask him to soften. Now, the other thing is this horse likes to go too fast, and so I'll use my reins to say stay slow, because gaited horses can't gait very fast, or can't gait fast at the beginning usually.
He is willing.
We need to control the speed first.
But as soon as he loses his balance, he puts it back up.
So here I'm asking him to soften, and I'm using my legs and a little cluck to say keep going. There. That's good, head down. But as soon as I speed up, he wants to put the head up, and so I'm right there with my reins, asking him to soften, and as soon as he starts to soften, I release. And again, he's pretty pacey. Definitely, it's more of a stepping pace than it was on the first day.
Okay.
As he starts to drop his head, and I'll keep him slow. And notice how quickly that head comes up. He got a couple steps of gait, and so I'll stop and praise. And he also wasn't stopping the best.
So is that just
with the bit and the reins, but he got better.
He normally drags it? Okay. All right, it's fine. Yeah, huh? Yeah.
Nice head down, and see the head pops back up. And after just 3 days, this is very normal for a high-headed horse, that you see a lot of up and down.
That was a gait right there. Whoa, good boy.
Good.
Good boy.
Didn't have his head down really low, but changed how he moved. And so I stopped and praised and give him a treat.
Here you go. Good job. Good job. Very nice. So all I'm doing, and if you guys ride, it'll be easier because you'll be just doing it on the trail, right? You won't be.
So again, I'm listening, which is why I ride on the road, so I can really hear it, why I don't finish up and do this in the arena.
Head down when you speed up. So we're going to speed him up. And just work on, let him pace
Ask
a
him
little
to
bit.
soften.
And just work on head down.
When he softens, I'll release.
Good.
But a lot of times he wants to stay at the walk. So there, as soon as he actually sped up faster than the walk, his head went up.
Drop it, just like we did at the walk.
And he was pacey. And then he slows. He's happy to put the head down at the walk, but I need him to put the head down and go forward.
So there is
that's stepping pace. There he dropped his head.
Good.
Look at that.
Slow. Let him go
Much
too fast.
nicer. Asking for that head down.
Slow down. Slow down.
So we got a couple steps of gait before the head went back up. And you're going to watch as you see different horses. As the head goes up, they literally just get pacey. And when they put their head down, they smooth out. But as soon as the head goes up, you're going to hear that pace come back.
Head down. And release.
Beautiful head down. And then as soon as I speed him up, that head comes up, so I shorten my reins again. Much better.
So
and then stop and praise.
When I gave him the loose rein, instead of speeding up, he slowed down. He was like, okay, I'll slow down, which is the response we want, so that you become comfortable giving him that loose rein, so that instead of speeding up, he's actually more likely to slow down. That's a good thing. Good job.
So basically, I'm going to repeat this. Now, you're going to see in just a minute, there's only 3 minutes left, but this horse ends up putting his head really far down. And with a pacey horse, that's how low I like to see, especially if the horse starts out really high-headed, doesn't have a lot of good muscling in the neck.
Yes.
Then I want to see a lot of head down.
Right there. So what we did is
his head was up and down and kind of all over, but he did gait a few steps, so I'm going to stop and praise for that. And so it's a little bit of a balancing act between
down, and then I just a little cluck and a little squeeze,
asking for head down and asking for gait.
And gaited a few steps, and I stopped.
But if I had tried this on day one, this horse was so pacey, we would never have gotten a single step of gait. You can see he's putting his head down on his own there at the walk. That's beautiful.
It's so relaxing and willing to put that head down, right? Especially for this guy. He's just walking slow. Like
nice low head.
No biggie. All right.
Again, I'm not going to ask him to keep that head there. Stepping pace. Ask him to keep going with my legs. Look at how low the head was. But his head came right back up because he lost his balance.
Head down. Good.
I'm not going to ask the horse to go
Very
around with
nice.
their head down that low
Very
all the
nice.
time. Because remember, the goal isn't just head down. The goal is to get the horse to lift his back, use his core muscles. Once he can do all that, he can do it with his head level. There's that high head. Good. Give him a loose rein as soon as he puts it down, and then I gather my reins up when his head is up. Look at that
was it right there.
beautiful
Feel
gait right
that
there.
change?
That was just
Yes,
phenomenal.
Very
Really, really nice.
There you go.
So that's kind of what I'm looking for at the beginning. Now remember, I'm not asking for the horse to keep the head that low permanently. Just enough that they start to use their body, and then they're going to keep their head very level. Not down that low. But initially, down that low is super, super important. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at the second horse. Again, this next horse, very well trained, very soft, very pacey. Shouldn't really pace like this. His breeding says he shouldn't pace. His training has been about getting him stronger. He's very supple, but he would just pace. And all I did was start to ask him to stretch down, but what it ended up doing was mostly stretch out, where he elongated his neck, and that was enough to make the difference. And so we're going to look at a couple videos of it.
Buckle. But as long as you just kind of buckle,
I don't remember if this was
But as
day
long as you
one
just kinda-
or day 2.
sort of keep going down the road, you're pretty good.
But this horse knows how to tuck his nose, but tucking his
Yeah, I
nose
see that. There
just
you go.
made
So
him
as soon as he
pacier, even
softens,
though he did it very
on the buckle.
easily. With this horse, what we really needed to do,
Good.
and I believe this is day 2, what this horse really needed
He's such a
was
smart
to have a loose
boy.
rein, not his nose
go.
in and gathered, which he can do, but to really stretch forward and engage the back. And bringing the nose in does
There.
not do that
Love
without adequate training
road.
and years of training, which would be dressage. That's
I just use that
lovely
rein,
how he
pick it up,
stretches his head
And then his head
forward,
came back up,
just keeping
so
him
light
on the
contact
road,
there.
asking him to keep his head level.
Nice.
Anytime that head comes up, I'm going to ask with the reins to keep the head level. And so you're going to see a little bit of pace. You're going to see that head go up and down a little. Not as dramatic as the first horse. But I want you to do is watch how this horse gaits when he doesn't
Stepping
go too
pace.
fast and when he
But his head's
puts
high,
his
so we're
head
just gonna
straight.
work on head
When he
down.
tries to arch his neck too much, he's very hollow. So he's pretty pacey there.
That was almost it. Good job. Good job. Good job.
And again, I don't go down too far because then the people that are watching can't see. So normally I would just keep going. And I'm not asking for the canter. That's a
Oh,
much
so
better
close.
gate,
Yes, that's it.
a little bit
Whoa,
trotty.
Good boy.
which I don't
Very
mind
nice. Right,
because
didn't take
he
much.
had never trotted before.
job.
Basically,
Very
he'd always
good.
paced. So the fact that he
Good.
changed is
He
good,
knows, like,
especially
I can-
for the
he
first couple
really
of
is-
days.
He knows I don't want that stepping pace now, in a sense that he may not get it right every time, but I'm feeling him trying. Like, not just like, oh, I just pace. This is what I do. He's really trying, softly trying. Yeah, and I'm hardly doing anything with my reins. He's figuring it out. And part of that comes from, well, we did head down. He needed that. But also that stop and praise when he gets it. Good job.
Oh, hopefully you didn't want to hear that. All here, we'll listen to the gate here. So notice how loose I keep my reins when he's not putting his head up. There his head comes up. But notice how loose. I'm asking him to stay on the road.
Slow down.
Slow
though.
down, so
Slow
my
down.
reins
He
are
wanted
tight
to go
there.
Too fast.
Perfect though.
Yes.
There. Let him put his head down, but he
Don't
wants
fall
to go
down
off the
ditch.
road, as you can
This
see.
way. And you have a little bit of a risk of that with loose
So I'm
reins,
keeping him
but
on the
for
road.
him,
I'm not
we don't
letting him
want
go
his
too
nose in,
fast.
we want it
But if
down.
he's paying attention, listening, he gets loose reins because I want him to stretch
Little
down and
soften.
forward and not just tuck his nose. That's
the trot.
nice. There he switched to the trot. Trot
There's the
a little
trot,
bit.
and you're not
And
going
again,
that way.
this is
Thank you.
only
Good
day one
trot.
or day 2, and we're really happy that he's not pacing because that was all he would do. Nothing you could do would
There's a
change
pace.
it. It's like that's really pacey and very short
So he
strided.
can-
If
he
you
can
look
do
at his
this all
back
day.
feet, taking these tiny little
yes.
steps. Tiny
Yes,
little steps.
there
So I'm
was
just
a step.
asking him to
Ooh.
stretch
'Cause, yeah, he got
forward
really
and down.
tight and short, and then his head went down and he changed. Good job. Good job. That wasn't good enough for a treat, but that was good. You changed. Took a deep
But
breath.
the
That's good.
difference in this horse is that he's not putting his head down near as low as the other horse, and we're still getting gait. And it's a big difference, but you have to understand every horse is different.
Yes.
Nice little gait.
Yes.
Notice I'm not pulling his nose in. There's a stop and praise there.
That was
So every horse is going to be a little bit different in what they need. Some of them are really pacey. I had a Palomino mare a couple years ago that we got that nose down on the ground, and that was what it took, was really head down, and they went home and worked on it, and within a couple months that horse was gaiting beautifully. And then you have horses like this where I'm not asking him to put his head down on the ground because he doesn't need to. What he needs to do is loosen up his back and start to use his whole body. And then he just will naturally gait because it's in him. But if you just try to bring the nose in, and he would just take these short little tiny steps, and that's very, very bad.
there. He's short and
So
compressed.
that's very short little pacey. Asking him to
Still short and compressed.
not go too fast. Start to drop that
Keep asking
head,
for that head down.
soften,
Ask him to soften,
and then I'll
loose
release.
rein.
A little better, but still pretty pacey. You can see how he's kind of high-headed. He's not like he's ignoring me and throwing his head up, but he's arching his neck, which you might go, oh, it looks so beautiful. But
There.
there he started to engage his back.
That was
When
nice.
he takes those short little steps from behind, it's not good. Sorry, we had a problem with these people going past really fast. And so I'm helping them slow down. So it's not about him getting his head all the way down, because all he has to do is soften and drop his head a little, and then we can see that he does really well. Come on. Oh, went too far. Here we go. Asking him, look at how low that head is. That's very nice. Look at that beautiful gait. He's using his back. You can see him kind of tuck his core, tuck his hind end, lift, and it was beautiful. And he didn't need to have his head down low like the black horse did. And that's kind of just a big difference. And I want to go ahead and show you day 3.
Good.
This is day 3 of the same horse. Look at that gait. And look at my reins.
Perfect.
There he gets a little trotty, so I lean back and lift up. But look at him maintain that gait.
Hey, 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 hey.
And that's a big difference from day 1 or day 2, right? But look at his beautifully arched neck is much lower now, much more stable. There's no head nod because it's a saddle rack.
Getting longer and longer. Good job.
It's a saddle rack or saddle gate.
Hold that
Just
speed.
listen to that. Notice the reins are loose, but as soon as he puts his head up, I have contact.
Yes. Hold that speed.
Recovers well.
Look at him put his head down.
Yesterday, and he doesn't swing to the extremes as
That
much.
was beautiful.
Yesterday was pace.
That is just phenomenal gaiting. He looks so different than the video we just saw. And all we did was, notice his head is not really far down, not like the black horse was. And he's able to kind of maintain better because he was already stronger, but he doesn't need his nose in. He needs it down a little bit. You can see him trying to put his head up, and I say, no, put your head down a little, and then I release. Loose rein. See, the reins are loose there. And he arches his neck on his own, but his nose is out. He's got a little trotty there, and I just correct it quickly, and then release. Notice the big release there with my hands. And so he's maintaining the gait. Look at his nose stay out. It's not about me pulling his nose in. It's about him finally freeing up and being able to step under with that hind end and not take those short steps. Isn't it beautiful? I kind of corrected him there. There we go. Back to a loose rein. It's just a beautiful saddle rack or saddle gate right there. Not letting him go too fast, which he wants to do, because it was a little bit easier for him. Okay. Let me know if there are any questions. So far, we have no questions. So if anybody has any questions, now's your chance to ask. I just wanted to show you guys that. So head down is super important, but it can look different based on a lot of horses. Now, for pacey horses, I will generally say they're going to look like that black horse. They're going to need to put their head really far down so they start to use their body at the beginning. Remember, it's not just about head down. It is about using the core, getting their back freed up so they can use it, using the hind end, lifting the base of the neck, lifting the shoulders, lifting the withers. But if I told you we were going to work on all of those things, you might be like, I'm not even sure how to tell if they're lifting their back, and that's okay. You can tell if they're putting their head down, which is what my free videos are for. And the link is in the description. And if anybody does have any questions, just go ahead and comment below and I will get back to you. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please share this video if it's helped you, because I know that a lot of people are confused with how low to put the head, and this video just might help them a little bit. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Oh, we do have a question here. AK says, how long should I keep initial training sessions? I'm so glad you asked. I did a video on this last week, but my initial training sessions are usually 10 to 25 minutes long. If the horse makes progress, I quit. Now at clinics, my sessions are an hour long, but that's simply because of the time constraint of a clinic. When I'm working at home, 10 to 25 minutes depending on what I'm working on and how many different things I'm working. And if the horse makes progress, I stop right there. Sue says, it just seems to me so many things to remember. Well, Sue, it's a good point. That's why I just teach head down and I don't teach you all those other things. I mean, for people that are ready for it, I definitely will teach it. I'll teach you what to look for, the back lifting, the base of the neck. Gaited horses are complicated. And the people that say they're simple and they just gait naturally, they lied. And nobody likes to hear me say that. They're like, oh, but there's good people out there. Yeah, absolutely. There's wonderful breeders and trainers. But you know, there's a lot of people that will tell you that horse is gaiting and that horse is doing a stepping pace. And they will swear that that horse is doing a good gait. And they will swear that their horse is gaiting perfectly. All you have to do is use the same bit and ride the way they do, and gaited horses just gait naturally. They're bred that way. Well, it's not true anymore. It might have been true 30 years ago. It's not true anymore, and they don't like me saying it. Sue says, like when to raise, loosen the reins, etc. Sue, so watch the free head down videos, because that's where you learn if the horse softens, loosen the reins. If your horse goes too fast, shorten it until they slow down and release. And you only do head up unless if they're trotty. That's the only time you do head up. Absolutely only time. AK says, my Palomino is my horse. Oh, the Palomino is your horse to a T. I'm going to try encouraging you to stretch forward. Any tips? Okay. AK, I am going to suggest that this horse's complete training sessions are on my private training group. So if you join that, you can watch the entire training session. Same thing with the black horse, actually. The entire training session is on there. So what I did, and this is, so if for like the Palomino, is I started riding and I started in the arena on circles, because watch the head down videos. They're free. Watch the head down videos. The link is in the description. I started just loosening the reins. Because the horse knows to soften. He knows to tuck his nose. So anytime the head was up, I'd ask him to tuck. And as soon as he tucked, I basically dropped the reins while going forward on a circle. And again, that video is complete on the private training group. You can join that and watch it there. And the black horse as well. Sue says she's totally heard all those lies about the gaited horses. And her horse is very, very trotty. So head up when they're trotty, and as soon as it smooths out, you release, which that sounds very simple, and I have videos that talk about it, but that is in essence all you do, unless your horse starts pacing. Valerie says, if we're doing more and more of a stepping pace, do we just keep working on head down? So I'm assuming your horse is pacey, Valerie, and if you're getting away from the pace, like more stepping pace, that's a good thing. That's progress. You can praise that. And you definitely want to keep doing head down, but you also want to do back up and leg yield and ground poles, depending on what the problem is. If getting the head a little bit lower is all it takes, like the black horse, that horse could gait perfectly once the head was down low enough. So you don't need ground poles, you don't need other things. If the head is down and you're still just getting a stepping pace, then you need to bring in the leg yield, stop back up and go forward like I talk about on my DVDs, and using ground poles. Any of those are really good options. But some of the horses I work with, like Camus, the Palomino, all you have to do is head down and it fixes it. And then you don't need to do anything else. But you have to have a video of that. Sharon said, I just answered the question. Well, look at that. I'm amazing. I answered your question and didn't even know what it was. So yes, there is a difference between trotty and pacey. The pacier the horse, the lower you get the head. If they're trotty, you use head down to get softness and relaxation, and then you use head up if they're trotty and head down if they're pacey. Sue says, where to apply leg for leg yield? Right where your leg hangs. It's not super technical. If you want the hind end to move, you slide it back. But if you just want the leg yield, you leave it right where it hangs, which should be just behind the cinch or the girth, depending on which style you ride. And there's lots of videos on how to do leg yield. And I talk about it some on my private training group as well. If there's no, I'll give it a couple minutes here for questions. Thanks guys so much for watching and for asking questions. I love questions. I love knowing the problems you're having so that I know like what to address in future videos, it's really helpful for me, and I hope I can help you guys by doing that as well. And so I really do love questions and the engagement. Otherwise, it's just me monologuing. AK Weaver says, collected leg yield or loose rein? So here's the thing. It's not, I mean, you have contact on the reins usually to get a leg yield. So I only ride with a loose rein when my horse is really well trained. Like if I can ride my horse bridleless, then the reins can be loose. So I have contact initially to get the leg yield. And the other thing is, because usually you use leg to get a leg yield, most horses feel that leg and try to go faster. So I end up taking up contact to say, don't go faster until I ask for faster. So there's often some contact, but it is not collected because collection comes from the hind end and not the front end. So we stop using that word. We don't use the word collected unless you do dressage. That's just kind of my rule. Nobody has to follow the rule, but it is my rule because no one knows actually what collection is. And unless you're doing dressage, you're probably not doing collection. So that's a pet peeve of mine. That would be one thing I could rant about. Anyway, great questions today, guys. I hope this video helped. Share this, please. And if you have any other questions, please comment and let me know. I'd love to help. You've got this.